Welcome, folks. My name is Damien Willie, better known as Cornish Damo, and this is an interview a lot of people have messaged me about. To have two people they've wanted to see on screen together, a pair of ranters together. We're proof that when it comes to socialism, there's no such thing as the North-South divide, as Cornwall meets Manchester, a clash of the gobby titans, if I do say so myself. I'm delighted to be sharing screen with my very good friend and comrade. She is Sarah Trousdale, better known to many as Red Sarah. Hello, Saz, how are you?
I'm fine, darling. How are you?
I'm lovely. I'm thrilled to bits to be speaking to you at last. We haven't broken the screen yet, but hell, there's still time for that.
Mate, if you'd have seen me this morning, I could have broken the screen. I forgot to wash the conditioner out my hair and I woke up like Michael Jackson in the Thriller video. I was like, working a proper...
Everybody has a political education, somewhere where we start to get interested or activated, or something draws us in, some kind of a moment that thing that suddenly gets them engaged in politics. And for me, my moment was suddenly having the rug pulled out from under me after Labour governments that helped families like mine with disabled people in it, to ones that made you feel like a scrounger, to one that saw you as somehow worthless. And I wasn't having that, frankly. And then, of course, somebody was elected to lead Labour who stood up for families like mine and valued them. What politicised you? What turned you into the activist you are today?
Well, I was always quite political anyway, because my dad was in a union when I was younger. He was always a lefter, hard left, as they call him these days. But what really got me going was in 2015, basically just after Brexit. I was devastated by Brexit. I couldn't decide which way to vote because there was that much information. And then I ended up voting Remain because of what had happened to Joe Cox. I thought, I can't. It felt like endorsing something that I couldn't endorse by going Leave, but I can understand why people did vote Leave, sort of thing. And I remember seeing Corbyn on the telly, and they all started quitting. All started when they were all quitting on national television.
Chicken coup, yeah.
So at the time, I was so fed up. I was like, the world is just going mental. And I thought, why are they all making such a show of quitting? They're all the same anyway. And then I looked into Corbyn, and at the time there was something happening in America as well with Standing Rock. They were trying to put a pipeline through a Native American burial ground.
Yeah.
So I raged about that. And when I looked into Corbyn, and I thought, oh my God, this man actually, the record's there. He stands for everything I stand for. He believes in everything I believe in, human rights for all. And so, yeah, Corbyn got the Standing Rock thing, because I was the same as everyone. When Obama came in, I thought, that's it, hope and change, all that. And then he was just basically a moderate Republican. He bailed out Wall Street and millions lost their homes, blah, blah. Same happened in this country with austerity. Austerity was always a lie. And it got perpetuated, like John Pilger said, before the Tories got to power. You had the news outside all the banks going we're going to go for the bankers. And then the minute the Tories and Lib Dems got into power, it got flipped. The narrative got flipped. It was like, well, Labour have spent too much money on schools and hospitals. And it's perpetuated that lie ever since. So that's what got me involved, like you say, watching the country that I grew up in, which wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but people seem to care about each other. And there was help from the government and stuff like that. And now it's just, we've gone back to, it feels like Dickensian times with smartphones.
Yeah. Well, you are a legend with your smartphone. We'll get onto that in a moment. But the chicken coup was a particularly depressing time, wasn't it? Corbyn had been in the job for something like 9 months, and all of a sudden everybody was coming out the woodwork and wanting them out, demanding they resign and all the rest of it. And the current Labour leader, of course, was one of them, one of the last ones tagging on. And it felt like a blow to me, certainly, because all of a sudden this guy has come along. He stands for stuff that seems like the sort of thing that we should all be fighting for, just decent housing and stuff like that, and a decent crack, a fair crack for everybody. And it just felt like after 5 years of that Tory Lib Dem sham of a government that made people's lives so flaming hard, you're just thinking, well, hang on a minute, this is the Labour Party. Why the hell are they trying to bloody take us back to that? Essentially, that's what it felt like, certainly to me. I'm presuming you felt pretty similarly then.
Well, I think we all felt it, didn't we? And then when they tried to make it, what was it, £25, when they eventually had the new leadership election, you got a vote. Everything was designed to make it so that people felt voiceless and powerless. it's sort of that like know your place sort of attitude. Do you know what I mean? Like you get people saying it about Blair now, like, well, he did some good things, and I'm like, well, he also sent us to an illegal war, and there's a young lad I used to talk to who lives in Piccadilly Gardens, and he's got PTSD, and he's been on the streets for years, and he sells poems as opposed to begging for money. And he said, like, we were sent off to this legal war. I thought I was defending my country, and I've come back, and the people like that have been abandoned to the street. So yeah, I think we all felt like that. You look round and you go, the Labour Party is supposed to represent us, and instead of representing us, they're sort of going, like the Labour thing that always used to drive me mad, the austerity thing, you know, when they're going on and on about austerity and how it's all Labour's fault. Mervyn King, the head of the Bank of England, came out and said it wasn't Labour's fault. Any party that was in power would have done, like, it would have happened. Toxic American debt. If you know anything about like how it works, you knew it wasn't anything to do with them putting libraries in Slough and stuff. Do you know what I mean? But they doubled down on that narrative. Then repulsive mugs about what was the immigration ones when Ed Miliband was leader. So for us to get Corbyn, for him to win with such a massive majority, and for them to then basically go, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you know, he's a nice man, but he's not a leader. Well, what you mean is that he's not corrupt. He's not going to get into power and then do favours for defence companies and all the rest of it. He's going to actually stand up for us.
Yeah, of course. Can stand up for the likes of you and I, essentially. And, you know, other governments, establishment governments, should we say, they're not interested in doing that. And, of course, what these politicians have done, and certainly is to buy into the media spin, and what the, you know, things like, you know, Corbyn standing up for bloody this, that, or the other will be ignored, but anybody launching an attack on him, usually from, you know, the back benches or something like that, and it's set upon. And of course, the media, the newspapers, they seem to work together on this. There seems to be some sort of like collusion where they all spin the same line on the same day.
You know, we know for like I'm not a conspiracy theorist, right? Like conspiracy theorist is like, you know what I mean? If it's true, it's true. When we were campaigning for the general election last year, and you had Johnson and Corbyn debating, didn't you, at ITV Studios, we all turned up a couple of hours before, and there was a massive demonstration, right? You know, Stand Up to Racism. I don't want to say it on here in case she doesn't want people to know it, but Stand Up to Racism was there, and it was an anti-Johnson demonstration. We were all milling about waiting for Johnson and Corbyn to turn up, and this woman came and started talking to us. Turns out she was a journalist. She didn't tell us she was a journalist. She was asking all these random questions. Long story short, we were all there. Corbyn turned up, came over, talked to all the crowd. Like, there was a little old lady and had brought a young boy to come and see Johnson. Like, oh, I don't like Corbyn, blah. So anyway, Corbyn comes over, chatting to everyone, blah, gets a great reception, walks off, and this little boy was like, oh, I didn't get a picture. I shouted him, he come back. He's just such a lovely man. He exudes kindness. Goes in the building. The next minute, because everyone's chanting, it was like obviously an anti-Johnson, hostile policies and racist comment. Johnson turned up in a car, saw the demonstration, and went through the back door. Never got. They don't mention it. They don't. Nothing. It's like when they were laughing during question time and they edit it, and they're like, "Oh, how do you accidentally edit the news, Damo? How do you accidentally edit the news to make it more pro the government? What do you call that?" There's only one way.
You cannot accidentally edit anything, and you know, it's not certainly not a conspiracy theory. And people will say, "Oh well, Corbyn was a wrong, and you just can't take it, you can't accept it." But it's not collusion. And you know, more recently, actually, all the newspapers all of a sudden were spreading across their front pages, "Oh, we need to get the kids back to school now. The kids are suffering." All the papers did that. Now, you know, Corbyn is gone now. Corbyn is, you know, as much as we might like him still to be leader, it is history now. But the papers have not changed. They are still spinning this line. They want the kids back in school now when it is still not safe, when we still got over 1,000 deaths a day. What are you talking about? The schools were proven to be the biggest, you know, sources of contagion going, vectors of whatever it was that Johnson called it, vectors of infection. And this is the first thing these people are chanting they want open again. It's not a conspiracy theory to call the media out.
It's like everything in this country has become about, it's all about money. It's all about, well, we need people to go to work to keep the economy going. Like, billionaires have made 4 trillion during this COVID crisis, and workers have lost 4 trillion. I think there might be a correlation there somewhere. It's like Hancock said last week, everyone can afford to stay home. No, they can't, though, can they? Because if people could afford to stay home, they would be doing, wouldn't they? Why have we got one of the highest death totals in the world? Because this country, this government doesn't care about people. I was reading an article last night from last year where this virologist said when he read about the herd immunity plan by Johnson in the beginning, he said, I thought it was satire. Like, I've never... So allow it to move through the population like all that back in the, what was it, take it on the chin and all that.
That's right.
Like, what was it Dominic Cummings said? If a few pensioners die. Like, this is what I don't, you know, the media make
damage, essentially, wasn't it?
It's basically, we've gone, it's like, well, we're rich and you know, we're the best of society. So, you know, we need to be okay. But like, you poor people, does it matter? Johnson wrote that article a few years ago, didn't he, about we need to thin the herd and all the rest of it. Like, and then you get, and this is what absolutely drives me crazy. He goes on television after everyone's known for months he's not done all he can. He's the most incompetent criminal. I'm going to try and not libel myself. He's incompetent. So we all know he's not done his best. I don't care if you're walking around with your eyes shut. He's not done his best. And then it's like he's like a little schoolboy who's, you know, stolen a cookie. He's on the front of all the papers the next day and going, oh, he's not a child. He's a man who really desperately wanted this job, but he didn't actually want to do the job, did he? He just wanted to be the Prime Minister because he thinks it's his God-given right, because he's one of those delusional, I was born into privilege, therefore I am better than you. And people buy into it. That's what drives me crackers. Just because someone speaks Latin and was born into stolen wealth doesn't make them better than you.
No.
Ever.
The whole cap doffing thing does drive me nuts as well. I said, why do people regard these people as better because they speak with a posh voice? And I've spoken to other people actually about accents. I spoke to Carrie Murphy at length actually regarding you know, people with accents, because she's got a very strong Scottish accent. You of course have got a beautiful Mancunian brogue, and I've been told I've got a lovely accent too by some people. But you know, we're devalued for it though. We don't speak with a posh accent. And of course, you got, you know, another example today. You mentioned Johnson, but you had Jacob Rees-Mogg today saying, you know, poverty in the north is Boulder Dash. I can only imagine what you might have to say about that.
That man has got a stately home that we paid to do up. They go on about thin the herd. He's got how many children? 7. Has he ever changed an apple? He stood up, like, what was it? He stood up in the House of Commons and said the other week, oh, the fishery businesses are collapsing, but they're British fish again, so they're happy. You, like, honestly, genuinely, right? And then I saw some woman on Twitter, Jacob Rees-Mogg, he's like one of us. What?
Yeah, I know.
What are you talking about? The man was born into wealth and privilege. He's never had to do a day's work in his life, ever. And then I had a guy in the general election, and we were in an area where there was swastikas on the walls, so it wasn't very pleasant. So I knocked on this door, and the woman was like, usual, you know, Labour, communists and blah.
Yeah, I got you.
And I started chatting away to her. She was actually quite, you know, she was listening to me, and I was going, blah, blah. And the next minute, her husband comes marching down the hallway. And he went, why do you Labour want to take all of the billionaires' money? So I said, Labour don't want to take all of the billionaires' money. We want people to pay their amount of tax, like austerity since it's happened. This amount of billionaires has increased, wealth inequality. You know, trying to give him facts.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, they work hard for that money. And I'm desperately trying to keep your temper. And I went, so your opinion is that nurses don't deserve a pay rise after 10 years and they should have to go to food banks, but billionaires work hard for the money. And he went, Ruh, and I went, you have a lovely day. And because I just thought, you can't, my dad's always said to me when I was younger, you can't argue with stupid. And I used to think you could. But how do you argue with someone who says that a billionaire deserves that money, but a nurse doesn't deserve to be paid a living wage? That to me.
I know. It's an indictment of what these people are fed in the news, though, and this is why, you know, we're here on Socialist Telly and other left-wing outlets as well. Canary, Squawk Box, we've all got to challenge it. You've got to give people more choice, more, you know, to challenge these ridiculous narratives that are actually, you know, self-harming essentially. But they, you know, if this is what they're told is the news, and this is what they're told is the truth, then it's what they're going to believe. Sadly.
I actually, do you know what, to be fair, I said that, like, because I don't watch the news, and I did say to someone the other night, because like a friend of mine was like, oh, people, and I said, if you actually did watch the news, like, you would some of the stuff that you sort of drip fed, do you know what I mean? I mean, I'll tell you, I knocked on one door and this guy said to me, because there's no one I won't try and turn, honestly. And he went, I'm voting for Johnson, Brexit. And I was like a dog with a bone. I was like, blah, blah, because he started going on about the people's vote. And I was like, yeah, I understand it too, blah, blah, but, you know, can't have too much democracy. I started going about, you know, after the Second World War, we'd never been in more debt, blah, blah, and I was going on and on and on. And in the end, he went, right, he said, I'm going to vote Corbyn. He went, they should put you on the telly, I'd vote for you. And I was laughing, but it's like, talking, like, if you talk to people, most people, and this is what frustrated me, you know, when you saw Labour MPs going, well, we knocked on doors and we got told this. Put them straight then. Put them straight. Instead of doubling down on the media message that you know is wrong, why would you not put them people straight? Do you know what I mean? Instead of like,
yeah,
you know,
I get you. Well, your activism in real life is, well, you've given some fine examples of what you got up to in real life. Your activism is now very well known on social media as well, because you make the most awesome videos going. I am quite jealous, actually, because you have this ability to just talk into your phone and all the emotion, all the passion of everything you believe in, it just pours out. Whereas I have to plan and I have to write, and it takes time, and it comes so naturally to you. It's quite a thing, though, to put yourself on camera. Not everybody's comfortable doing it, and a lot of people shy away from it. What prompted you to start doing these videos? Because it's not how you started out on social media, is it?
No, I was on Twitter for years and years, and I barely, like, it was literally just to follow politics. I started on Twitter because of football, which is like, it makes me laugh. Everyone thinks Red Sarah's because I'm a commie, and it's not. It's for my football team. But basically, I was obviously I got involved in activism, and we were campaigning and things like that. And then a friend of mine said to me, like, you know, you should do some sort, like, your rants are great sometimes, like, you put it like quite succinctly, and you should put your face on, like, you should do it. Now, I've got 3 sisters and they're all really photogenic and they've all got poses when they're like, whereas I've got Chandler face. I don't know if you've ever watched Friends, but a camera comes out and I'm like, ah, my sister goes mad and she's like, what is wrong with your face? And I'm like, I just can't, like, I'm just freeze. So I did kind of put it off, and then I said it to a friend of mine and she said, well, that's really vain, innit? Like, basically you could, like, you know, you could sort of like spread the word a bit more if you sort of put, because people like to like look at faces when they're talking, and you're just not doing it because you don't like your face on camera is a bit vain, innit? And I was like, yeah, it is a bit really. So I mean, don't get me wrong, that's why I literally usually just do my video. I do the video and I do it once, do you know what I mean? Because I'm like, I can't, if I overthought it, I'd send myself under, because I know I'm not photogenic. But I just think at the end of the day, it is what it is, and it. I mean, we get bullied. Some of the comments we get about our faces, and Joe, it really cracks me up, mate. I think, firstly, while you're bullying me, leaving someone else alone, and secondly, I find it highly amusing that racists really hate my face. I find it tickles me so much that I vex them so much, so I kind of go, whatever, sort of thing.
I'm exactly the same. I mean, that block button is there for a reason, of course, but they just make me laugh, because I say, really, if you're having to go at me over my appearance, then, well, whatever. It means you can't argue the toss about what I'm actually saying then. But that's
exactly what I said to a guy. Said to me one day something about, like, oh, you look like a crackhead or something, like some really cutting, witty comment. And I was like, everything I've just said in that video, everything I've just said, and the only comment you've got is that my face is repulsive to you. Like, you're not even worth my time, do you know what I mean? Because what you look like on the outside to me doesn't matter anyway. It's about the person you are on the inside. So
absolutely, absolutely.
Even to it, mate. I couldn't care less.
Indeed. But of course, your Twitter activity has been hampered somewhat in recent times, and this is usually a clear sign that you're pressing the right buttons when they come after you and attack you as well. But you've really copped it. You've just come through a prolonged period of being repeatedly suspended by Twitter. What started this? Why has it taken so long to get you back? And what effect has this had on you?
Well, I've always got, like, I've been suspended for random reasons a lot in the past. I used to get suspended a lot when we did carbon, Twitter sound and stuff like that. But obviously, because there's a few of us that speak out about things that, you know, they don't really like to speak out about. Basically, I got doxxed by Andrew Feinstein was being attacked. So I basically said, can people report the person attacking Andrew Feinstein and please stick up for Andrew Feinstein, because the things they were saying about him was disgusting. So then I got doxxed by this guy. So I sort of retweeted it laughing, saying like, well, everyone knows my name and what I look like. So like, you're not really, you know, you don't scare me, basically. And then after that, there was apparently a few of them, because I saw screenshots. This guy was like, oh, I've got all her old tweets and it's the equivalent of shooting someone in the head on Twitter, he said. Every time my account kept getting suspended for, I met Corbyn last year at an event, and it's a picture of me and Corbyn taken with my phone with both of our permissions, and they kept suspending me for that, saying like, take it down or you can't go back. And it was funny because my avatar at the time was the same picture, so it was just hilarious.
Yeah,
it was hilarious. It was just like, what? And then Crafty obviously did his Thank You Corbyn CD single, so I was doing video of that and promoting it, because we were like, I wanted it to get top 20. So you know,
it did well. It really did.
It hit. I think it hit #1 in the hip hop downloads. It was charted top 20 anyway. So I got an email saying like, basically, you've broken privacy laws by posting this video. So I was like, right, and I took it down. Oh no, and then he wouldn't let that. Basically, it suspended me, but it wouldn't let me appeal it or take it down, and he wouldn't tell me how long I was suspended for. And then over the course of about 2.5, 3 months, my account kept coming back up, but every time it came back up, they'd mass report me again.
Yeah.
And they'd bring it back down. And literally every time, even though Crafty, Damo, literally sent a tweet and was like, I've given her permission to share this, like thousands of people have shared it, I didn't get an email or anything, no way to appeal it. When they brought my account back up, I didn't get an email. I've not had anything off Twitter in months. My account was up and down. What, darling?
Nothing at all from them.
No, the very first time that they suspended me properly in November was when they said you could put this Crafty song up, and it said to take it down or like basically appeal it, follow this link. The link sent me to Twitter. And then the link on Twitter sent me back to the link on the email. I was literally going in a circle. And then it was down for ages. And to be honest, I haven't got any other social media, and the people I talk, like my socialist family online, it was very frustrating, shall we say, because I don't, like I said, I don't have any other social media, and Twitter's my outlet sort of thing. Like if something stresses me out, like I see something on the news or Keith's done something or Johnson's done something, and I can go and rant about it, but I had no way to let it out. Basically,
you had no outlet.
That they don't even, like, they say the first time they sent me an email, which sent me in circles, because I was like, have they done this on purpose to try and send me crazy? And then after that, because I've turned my phone off for a couple of days, and Shippo rang me and said your account was back up.
Yeah.
But by the time he got hold of me on my phone, it had been taken back down again.
We did, yeah. It wasn't just Shippo trying to get hold of you. I tried it. It was an absolute nightmare trying to get hold of you, lady. But the whole mass.
Sometimes, darling, I'm so, because do you know what I mean? Like it's literally my phone. Like I feel ignorant, and if I answer one person, I've got to answer every person. So I'm just like, right, I'm just not going to answer anyone.
I get days like that. I'm not fond of talking on the phone myself. I completely get where you're coming from. The whole mass reporting side of this is crazy. Why on earth did Twitter keep allowing this to happen? Why did they? I mean, effectively, their reporting algorithms were being abused by a group of people who were determined to try and keep you off, and it became like a game to them. It's just, how fast can we get Sarah off Twitter again this time round? And like you say, I completely agree. The rants and having a go at life in general through social media, it's cathartic. It's good for you. It gets it off your chest. I completely relate to that. But yeah, I mean, is it not about time that Twitter had revisited its procedures a little bit? There's been absolutely no sign that they've got any intentions of doing so.
In my opinion, I mean, the thing that makes me laugh about Twitter, I've seen accounts that do nothing but spew racial slurs, some of the most disgusting stuff you'll ever read. and they've been up years.
Yeah.
During the American election, an article came out, I think it was the New York Post, and Twitter didn't want it to be shared because they were saying it was fake news. It wasn't. They just didn't want them to read this thing about Biden's son. And they wouldn't even let people retweet it or DM it, right? So they've got algorithms where they can obviously they can set it to censor certain things, obviously. So what I don't really understand is how tweets like ours can be taken down, or I can be mass reported for my own picture. But then you'll get people who can write the most obscene, disgusting tweets, and we all report them, and they still. That's what I don't understand about it. How are you taking tweets down that are about Yemen or one of the lads I followed the other night? Literally, someone said, LFC Becca. You know our Becca?
Yeah.
She's been on Twitter for how many years? Now, Becky's one of the loveliest people walking. She never tweets anything that could be remotely seen as offensive or mass reported. Her account's been taken down. She's had no email off Twitter. She set up another account that got taken down. We managed to get that one back up. A friend of mine, Alicia, same thing, 10-year account, mass reported, taken down. No way to appeal it, mate. They don't even send you an email. They don't even, do you know what I mean? They don't even, to me, for such a massive company, and they've obviously got the technology to stop me sharing articles and all the rest of it. So how have they not got the technology to know, well, hang on a minute, why is this one person being mass reported? I mean, I don't know how any of it works, mate, but I would imagine that they've got some way to do it. They just don't really.
I'm sure they do. And one of the most egregious things about this relentless Twitter ban that you've received is that it was seen by many of us as discriminatory. And part of this was because we know you've suffered a brain injury that you've got whilst defending a homeless person from abuse. Would you mind telling the story behind that and how it's affected you since, and what bearing this has when it comes to your output on Twitter?
Where I live is quite central to Manchester city centre, so the only shops that are really open past 11 o'clock at night are in the city centre. So it was the middle of summer in 2018. England were in the World Cup, and I walked up to Piccadilly, and there's a lot of homeless people on Piccadilly. And as I come out of a shop I've got bin tobacco, and as I come out of the shop, there was a homeless man being attacked. So I kind of I didn't even think about it, I just sort of ran at this guy, and he pushed me. But because I was wearing flip-flops, rookie mistake, I slipped off the pavement and hit my head off the pavement.
Right.
So I got a massive, basically they took me to hospital, give me a CT scan, and I had a bleed on the brain, a traumatic brain injury. Right. So the after effects of it are, you find it harder to bite your lip when something irritates you. So I was never very good at that anyway. You're more passionate, it rises to the surface easier. But stress, if I get stressed, I can get really bad migraines, and I'm not supposed to get too stressed because it can cause seizures, but I live in a Tory country, so that's always going to.
Indeed.
Yeah. But it affects me, darling. Just the sometimes I'm very quick, my temper. I've always had not a bad temper, but if I see something that I don't think's right, I find it very, very hard to bite my lip. Not long after I got the brain injury, I was on the tram, and my head was still out here. And there was a man shouting racist stuff on the tram, and this one girl, bless her, with a pram, was trying to argue against this guy. And for about 10 seconds, I thought, I can't say anything because what if he kicks off? And I was so scared to get him about because I was lucky not to die. The neurologist said to me, don't be doing that again. But yeah, me and this girl ended up, having a go at this racist and kicking him off the tram, blah, blah. And all these big blokes come up to us afterwards oh, nice one, wages. I was like, man, you could have said something at the time. But affects me, yeah, I just find it harder to keep my mouth shut, but I was never good at that anyway. And it stressed me, it's just more than anything, it's just having to deal with universal credit, do you know what I mean? When you, because sometimes it's my brain freezes when I get stressed out, and I've only ever really got that since the brain injury. But that's just because jobs were to stress me out anyway.
Yeah. Now, you and I have known each other for some time now, and I have to say, without doubt, you're one of the most generous, giving people that I know of. You'd give someone your last penny if they asked, and you've just mentioned universal credit. You are a universal credit sufferer. I won't say claimant. Awful system that it is. But despite that, the link on your profile page for some time was to donate to FairShare. And currently it links to another cause you're championing at the moment, that of Asim Brown, which we'll talk about in a minute. But after you suffered that brain injury protecting someone else, you are essentially, you're the dictionary definition of putting others first. Literally, you haven't had it easy. You still don't, but you always put others before yourself. What drives you? What keeps you going?
All the pain in the world, really, because even though I have been through a lot, there's people that go through a lot worse every day. For example, Asim Brown, young artistic lad who moved here when he was 4 years old, got put into care when he was 16, got moved 28 times in a year, which would be traumatic for someone who wasn't autistic. At 18, he was done under the joint enterprise law. He was there when a phone was stolen. All the witnesses says he tried to stop it. He was the only one the three who got a custodial sentence. And now they're talking about deporting him to Jamaica. Just the thing that keeps me going is all the preventable pain in the world, all the things that I read about and see and think it doesn't have to be this way. The thing that always baffles me, I was raised Roman Catholic, and I don't really believe, I'm not religious, I don't go to church and things like that, but my Jesus, like, treated everyone the same and looked after everyone. And like me and my friend who used to have this, have you ever heard the story about stone soup? When like, if you skin, basically me and my mate like used to go like, what have you got in the cupboard? What have you got in the cupboard? And it's that story about if you all come together and everyone contributes what they've got, then everyone can eat well. If everyone keeps the one bit that they've got. So that, I mean, I'm just like, I've always been, everyone always tells me I'm too soft and all the rest of it, but I just want everyone to have a decent life, and I don't really understand why, like, the world provides for all of us. We could all live a decent life, and instead we've got this like living nightmare where you've got about a dozen men, you've got most of the world's wealth, and 1 billion people a day starving. And it just, it makes me enraged. It's like Martin Luther King said and Malcolm X said, do you know what I mean? It's you're either one of them people or you're not. You're either like, if you tremble with every injustice, do you know what I mean? Every single thing that I read, stories about people who can't afford to eat and things like that, that keeps me going. Because like you say, like, if I'm walking, that's why I could never like be rich, because I walk down the street and if I've got 50 quid in my bank and I see a homeless, do you know what I mean? I'm going to buy you a hot drink. I'm going to, like when I worked in London, I worked in construction and I was earning really good money. And there was a girl that used to come round and collect money outside the pub. And I give her 20 quid one night, and then she'd come back about half an hour later and she'd obviously gone and bought drugs with it. So I said, I thought you were going to check into a hostel, blah, blah, blah. And this guy's like, oh, you idiot, giving her money. She's about 16 years old, Damo. I went, it's my money, I've earned it. And if I want to give it her for like blah, blah, I went and paid her in the hostel or whatever. But it's that sort of attitude, do you know what I mean? Like when I see a homeless person, I don't think, what's wrong with you? I think, what's wrong with the country, the society we live in, the way you end up on a street?
Yeah. No, I completely concur with that.
Sorry to ramble, but like that.
Don't you ramble away. My goodness me, this is your show. You tell us what you tell us how you feel. I mean, I asked the question. If you've got it to say, you've got it to say. And I can't argue with a single thing you have said. It is gross inequality that we have in this country that leads to these circumstances for so many people, and it's not right. Why should it be right in a country that's as wealthy as ours? It's wrong. And as you said, it is rife the world over, but the UK is particularly bad for gross inequality. There are, as you say, a handful of people who own nearly 50% of all the wealth in the country, or own as much wealth as the lowest 50% of the country.
My dad told me the other week, and even I didn't know this. My dad said, you know how big this country is and how many people are in it? And I was like, yeah, and he went, only 8% of the time are you walking on public land. And I was like, what? And he went the rest of the, I'm sure he said 8%. Watch, I'm going to see this, what I mean. I'm going to have to check that now. But
yeah, I'll have to check that one.
8% of the time, the rest of the, because there's so much land that's privatised. Like I was reading about a housing place down south where they planted vegetables, in the community garden. Council came and ripped them up.
Oh, for God's sake.
This is what, in America, I told a friend of mine and she didn't believe me, right? So I had to go and find the evidence because I read these things and I'm like, I know I read that. In America, in certain states, if you put like something in your back garden to catch water, you can get done. It's illegal to catch water because the water is owned by the water company. And that's what this country is becoming. When people are like, oh, we want to look at like the America you see on the television, 78% of Americans were living in poverty, paycheck to paycheck before COVID. So when we are literally emulating that country, we're becoming that country where capitalist society, do you know what I mean? Nothing mean like human. I watched a documentary the other night about Britney Spears, framing Britney Spears, and how they've done a hatchet job on the poor girl. Free Britney. She's a socialist, our Britters. But anyway, I went out the room and YouTube do that thing where they put some random like thing on that you've never watched before.
Yeah.
And Kim Kardashian, I came in from the other room that quick because it annoyed me that much. Honestly, I was like, get this off my television. I got offered $1 million to post a thing on Instagram. Like, that's a world that's just normalized, is it? Where someone can sit in their $50 million mansion and post something on Instagram for $1 million, but people who are literally killing themselves and risking their lives, like teachers and doctors and nurses, don't deserve to be paid enough to live on and should have to pay how much a day to go and park at the hospital. Like, the fact that people are all right with this world makes me, I just get so angry because I think, how are you all right with that? Do you know what I mean? Like $1 million to post some random fuel on whatever it's called, that gram thing.
Now, your latest worthy cause has, as you've mentioned briefly a moment ago, been your involvement in the case or the campaign for Asim Brown, who is a young autistic man facing deportation to Jamaica, a place where, if people want to get an idea of the level of autism this young man has got, he asked his mother what bus he's got to catch to get from Jamaica back to Dudley to see her. Can you tell us a bit more about the story behind this, about this issue, and what people can do to help?
This is another thing where basically Osim, the same as Johnson, moved here. Osim actually moved here when he was younger. Johnson moved from New York when he was 5. Osim moved here at 4 years old. Obviously he's autistic and his mother wasn't provided with the care that she needed. He was taken into care at 16. Moved 28 times in a year, as I mentioned. And then when he was 18, a phone has been stolen. He was there. All the witnesses said he told them, like, stop, don't get involved. But I don't know if anyone's heard it. It was done under the Joint Enterprise Law. It's a law that's basically racist. They use it to put young black men in prison for crimes they haven't committed. They were just stood there. It's been ruled by the Supreme Court to have been being used wrongly for years, all this. So he was the only one out of the 3 to receive a custodial sentence. He's got PTSD from prison, like the way he was treated in prison. And now he's home with his mum. His heart failed the other week. He was in hospital because of the stress of everything he's going through. He's only 22 years old. And now basically the Home Office has said, they actually had the cheek to say, you grew up in Jamaica till you were 4, so you know the culture. He's not got any family over there. He grew up over here. This is his home. This is his home. Like, why is Johnson seen as English, but Osim isn't?
It's a valid point. It's a valid point. It is an absolutely valid point. As you said, Johnson was born in New York and moved here at the age of 5. Asim was born in Jamaica, moved here at the age of 4. It's similar circumstances.
Johnson was caught on tape, literally arranging to commit whatever it was, that dodginess he was doing with that friend of his. Now
he arranged to have a journalist beaten up.
Right, there you go. And he becomes PM and you get all the papers going, oh, look, he's trying his best. A young lad who's autistic, who doesn't understand what's going on anyway, and the Home Office is going, well, he's lived there since... I don't know about you, I don't remember being 4. Like, if I'd lived in Botswana since being 4, then... do you know what I mean? You don't... That's your home, innit? Where you've lived the majority of your life is your home. So for them to turn around and they said, oh, he's got no basis to be here. What about the fact this is his home? He's like, Thatcher changed the law. I didn't know this up until about a year ago. If you were born here after, I think it was 1985, and both of your parents were immigrants, you're not automatically a citizen. Now, I never knew that. But yeah, basically what people can do to help, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent about how racist our system is. What they can do to help is an early day motion that you can sign. The link at the top of my page has got all the links to it. It's got the petition. We've got about 370,000 signatures on that so far. It's got his whole story, what happened, how you can help. There's an early day motion that they want to sign. Write to your MP, politely ask your MP to, speak up. And write to Johnson directly and say, look, this is wrong. We can't send this young lad with heart problems and autism and no family. He's not been there in 80. It's not his home, Damo. This is his home.
Yeah.
No, this wouldn't even be a question. It wouldn't even be a question.
Yeah, I completely take your point. It's especially offensive, I think, to say that a child of 4 brought to this country has got any memory of what went on before him. I mean, my own mother is not Cornish. She was born in Stockport, up your way somewhere, and she moved back here at the age of 5. Funnily enough, she's got no memory of living in Stockport whatsoever. Why would she? You're a young child. So it's an incorrigible excuse from the Home Office to say he knows all about the culture, having lived there up to the age of 4. It's risible, it's ridiculous, it's insulting, and nobody should buy a word of it. And I absolutely hope people will visit your page and click on that link. And I think we'll include the link actually to this video. And I hope that people do read up on Asim's case and the victimization that's going on there.
I mean, I forgot to mention the next official Twitter storm is Thursday, the 18th of February at 7 p.m. because they were doing them every Sunday, but there's too much going on a Sunday. People aren't noticing. We need to get more people to notice what's going on so that we can basically bring, the more attention you're going to bring to it, the more chance that we're going to get the Home Office to do the right thing, basically. So,
yeah. Thank you, Sarah. You have finished on a note that pretty much sums up all of your activism, actually. You're always putting somebody else first before yourself. Thank you so much for everything you do, coming on to speak to me today. You're a social media legend. We're made up beyond belief. We've got you back. And thank God you're on our side, quite frankly. You've jumped back in right where you left off, arguing for a fair deal for all, always putting others before yourself. You are socialism, my socialist sister, and I love you to bits for it.
I love you too, sweetheart.
Cheers.
Up the revolution.